In this video, you will learn how to create an abstract painting that can stand alone or be used as a background for an altered book. So to prep my page in my altered book, I want to put down a layer of gesso so that whatever I put over the top of this won't soak in too much and the colors will stand out and be nice and vibrant. I'm going to be doing this in layers using mostly acrylic paints. I'm also going to be using some stencils. I might throw in a little tissue paper, maybe some stamping. We're not really sure how this is going to turn out in the end, but what we're going to be doing is building up layers to create a nice background. You can see a video on my page on how I created this background. This is going to be a separate technique. So to start, I'm going to just start by applying some acrylic paint to my paper. I'm gonna do this really loosely. I like to do this with a palette knife. I like to just pick up the paint and sort of scoop it on. This is just going to be a background. So it's going to be abstract and expressive. You could do this using a brush as well, but I like the texture that is created by my palette knife. If I were smart, I would probably have some newspaper underneath this. Base layer on here. If I do this quickly, I should be able to kind of continue to spread and blend my colors together. This is all about just creating some interest by making some textures. So that's why I like to use my palette knife for this step. Now I'm going to go through with some more colors to add some different pops and elements of colors that maybe wouldn't have mixed so well with the blues and the greens. So I have a maroon color here. I also have a gold. I'll start with the gold. The good thing about working like this is if you add something down that you don't like, you just paint over the top of it. I might add pops of this gold by using bubble wrap. This is one of my favorite ways to add some visual interest here. This is kind of mixing together to create kind of a greenish. I'm just gonna paint on this bubble wrap, flip it, and stamp it. Stamp lightly. I might repeat this in a couple locations. I could also be using some stencils. So I have a couple stencils set out here. Oh, I might try this one. And some white. This can be pretty thin. And again, the idea is to create texture. So if this doesn't go on perfectly, you have to just be okay with that. This type of art making is not for people who like things filled in completely and like them to be as, you know, machine made and perfect as possible. We want to put our human stamp on this. kind of create some more texture, to create some more visual interest. I have these random pieces of tissue paper that I think will go well with my design. So I'm gonna add these on using Mod Podge. I have some poured in this container. Now ideally I would wait for my paint to dry, but I'm gonna just kind of go for it and see what happens. I'm gonna apply my Mod Podge down with a brush. And then I'm gonna add my pieces on. I'm just gonna kind of add them ever so often throughout. I could let them crumple up to create some texture, who knows? And like I said earlier, if this goes down and I hate it, well, then you cover it up. And remember, ultimately here, we're making a background. So in the end, if again, you don't like something you did, or you have an area that's not your favorite, like currently right now I don't like that, I gotta figure something out with that. Then when I'm adding some collage over the top, I can just cover that up, like right now. So I really like what I have so far, but I don't love the harsh edges created by those pieces of tissue paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to soften those up a little bit. I have this other color that I haven't used yet. So I'm gonna start to add some details over the top with this additional color. Again, if you do something and it's cool, great. If you do something and you don't love it, just paint over it. I always question myself as I'm working like this. Whenever I start something, I always think, ooh, that's gonna be really terrible. And I hate it for a second. And sometimes, ultimately, I do hate it. But sometimes, it turns out really cool. So I'm gonna just go through now, and I'm adding some specific designs. I like to repeat things. So you notice that I repeated this pattern, I repeated the bubble wrap, I'm repeating colors. Now I'm gonna go through and repeat this just kind of rainbow kind of shape and see what it turns into. So maybe now I'm gonna add an additional color. So I'm going in with more white and I'm adding some more specific details. So there's no rhyme or reason to how I'm doing this. I did not go into this with an idea, but what is important is that you're selecting colors that are gonna go well with each other. You are not selecting just random colors that aren't gonna mix very well. I have this area right here that I'm not convinced that I love, so I'm going to go in with a stencil that I've already used to continue my repetition. Put a little bit of paint on that brush and dab it on. We'll see if we can kind of color up that eyesore, that's the part that I don't like. So the cool thing about this is you're just sort of letting your paint interact with its surroundings. You're building up layers, and what you don't like, you cover up. I'm pretty happy with this so far. I'm gonna keep building on it, but not too much, because ultimately this is going to be a background in my altered book. I'm still going to maybe cut out letters and put a quote on here, or add some pictures in here. This is really busy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of colors, which is what I wanted. So maybe when I decide you know, what I'm going to add on it. I might keep that a little more subtle. But in thinking about colors, I like to keep things balanced. So I was just feeling down there like there wasn't enough of this golden yellow color. So I wanted to add some more of that. I'm repeating, I have vertical lines in certain spots, so I might bring this other color in a couple of different places. And I feel like I could continue to add to this, but I also feel like I could be done with it. And there you have it. Just using the simple materials of acrylic paint, tissue paper, and creativity. I hope you can recreate something like this that you love just as much as I love this, and it can be a background for your altered book, or it could be a work of art in itself. Hope this helps.